One.
All right, this is a special segment on one rental at a time. Michael asked me to come in here, and I've got Grant, and Grant is going to ask some questions on entrepreneurship. So, welcome to the show, Grant, and fire away.
Thank you for having me. Um, my first question is about your background, specifically experience in investing or maybe real estate investing, if any.
Sure. I started in real estate because I didn't go to college. I wasn't a very good student. Didn't open books. Always thought I wanted to either be in law enforcement or in real estate. I ended up getting into the mortgage business when I was like 20 years old. I started as a telemarketer. I was really good. I got my license, and then I started originating residential loans. Uh, got really fascinated with real estate investing in California. I live in Nevada now, but in California, um, you needed your real estate license to do loans. And then after doing loans for many years, I got into selling real estate. I got into funding, arranging financing for investors, fix and flip loans, so they could get the money to flip houses. And then I said, "Oh, I could do this." I started flipping houses in the San Francisco Bay Area, and got into commercial financing, bought properties out of state in the Midwest, um, funded a lot of deals, and today I fund a lot of businesses with SBA financing is my kind of my core job. So I've done a little bit of everything. I've owned a real estate brokerage. I've flipped a lot of houses, own rental properties, actually selling all the Midwest rentals right now, own a small business, part owner of a small business. And every day I help people finance businesses or real estate over the last 26 years. So I think I put together hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of deals. So I think from an experience level, I have a lot of experience. I've made a lot of mistakes on my personal deals. I've learned a lot, and I watch what other investors do. So I think like full stack, I could probably compete with most people how to structure deals, how to put things together. But the beautiful thing about this industry is you're always learning. I'm 46 years old. I learn something new every day, oftentimes multiple things.
Great. So what I was wondering was, given the like slew of other more maybe traditional investing options like stocks, why real estate?
So I was all real estate. Now I'm kind of both now. I believe in like business ownership. I believe that there's a triangle, and the triangle is basically tax deferment, tax strategy, real estate for long-term play, and business ownership for cash flow. So I think it takes many years to build a portfolio of real estate to get high cash flow when you're doing long-term rentals. Now you can supercharge if you do short-term rentals, mid-term rentals. I think there's a little bit more risk in that than, cookie cutter long-term rentals. But I believe in the approach of owning cash flowing, boring businesses and real estate. Because I think real estate is a long-term play. I think going out there and buying real estate, you're not going to make much cash flow the first couple of years. It's going to take a long time of appreciation of the asset and mortgage pay down. Like you're not like even when I went out to the Midwest, I ran the numbers. Oh, I could buy these properties for 50 grand. I'm going to get a $1,200 a month rent. But the time you put CapEx, which is like the repairs, it eats up your cash flow. So is buying out of state the best model? I believe not. I would rather, and that's where I buy into one rental at a time's buy box, because I think you should own real estate, initially within a 2.5 hour radius, because then you can have the oversight to make sure the property manager's not nickel and diming you, because you lose all your money on the maintenance and the capex of real estate at the beginning. Like one thing goes out, the HVAC, the air conditioner goes out, you're not getting cash flow for 2 years. So that's when my new thesis was formed as I got into arranging SBA loans, which are business loans. And I believe that, like, if I was to give you advice I think you're 16, right? I think what you should do right now is start a cash flow business and then take that. So my strategy for you, if I were to be so gracious, is allow me to give you some strategy of what I would tell myself at 16, I would start a cash flowing business such as like vending machines. I'd build a bunch of cash flow. I would figure out what it cost me once I'm 18 and I move out, whether you're going to go to university probably, but if you decide not to, well, actually go to university because your parents probably want you to go. All right. So, but during college, you should have your vending business going. Now you're making a couple grand a month. You're saving some of that money. That money that you save goes for your first house hack. You know what a house hack is? That's where you live in the duplex and you, right? Or you live in the house, you rent all the other bedrooms out. You get FHA financing. It funds 97.5%. Now you own this duplex or triplex or fourplex. And you're making, your mortgage is paid, all your taxes, insurance is paid by your tenants, and maybe you're making $1,000 or $2,000 positive and living for free. Then with the vending business and that, now you're up to $10,000 a month in cash flow. You're still going to college and you have $10,000 a month is going to cover all your living expenses. Then you're saving more, and then you're going into your acquisition of house two, and then you're also looking for what's the next business that's going to be a bigger growth, top line revenue business, and then you're scaling up the real estate portfolio. That's what I would say would be a great model for you, because if you did go to college and you spent 4 years or 5 years going through, and then you had $200,000 in student debt and you didn't have this going, now at least you come out and you paid for everything yourself. You maybe have no student loans or very little student loans. You own a duplex, fourplex, or triplex. You're on your second acquisition already, because you don't have to be where I went wrong. The first house I bought on a lease option, where that's where you set the price and you lease it, and then you have the option to buy it. I ended up buying the property a year later. My option price was $325. The time I bought it a year later, it was appraised at $375. I made 50 grand of equity. I bought the property. Where I went wrong is, when you have a good piece of real estate, you never should sell it. And I sold that. And today that property is worth 1.3 million. I sold it a few years later. I made some money on it, but I could have had that property cash flowing. The mortgage would have been paid off by now. It would have been 1.2, 1.3 million. I probably would have refinanced and bought other properties. But so good assets, keep for as long as you can, and you can harvest the equity out and then buy more properties. So I made a lot of mistakes of selling too many assets. A lot of the houses I flipped. So I hope that kind of gave you some light.
Yeah, yeah. That answered a lot of my questions actually. So, my next one was about, you talk about your buy box and whether to buy in state or out of state. So my question to you was about how you determine where you're buying. What are the things that you're looking for, and what does your process in determining those things look like?
Sure. So when I lived in the Bay Area, I was into flipping and didn't really think about owning the asset for long-term rents, because it just like bigger numbers, right? And so then I got the bright idea to go out of state because I can buy houses very cheap. I made money there, but I realized that wasn't the best move. So I sold all those assets. And so now I have a new thesis, and my new thesis is real estate with businesses. So RV parks, marinas, things that have a real estate component with, where I can get high leverage financing, and like these type of real estate plays can produce several $100,000 to $1 million to $2 million a year in top line revenue, minus, then you have expenses, of course. I think those are the plays that I really like. And I think that because I am now in my 40s and I've gone through a lot of properties that I didn't hold and didn't really pay attention to owning long-term rentals like I should have. I made mistakes there. A lot of the houses I flipped, I should have kept one out of every three I was flipping. I would have been in a lot better position. Where I see people doing very well today is owning a really good asset, and they're doing short term or mid terms with. So it kind of depends on where you're at. I would say, like, if I were talking for you or saying what would make most sense, I would do the house hacking strategy. For me, now, I've built, I have two businesses essentially, and then I own, a portion of a marina and a restaurant. Now my thesis has changed because now I'm married and I have a child. But yeah, I made many mistakes going back. If I could tell myself, it's like, look, define a buy box, buy good assets that aren't going to require a lot of capex, a lot of, like, don't go and think it's going to make sense to go buy 2,000 miles away, because when you're not there, initially, you're you're going to see that everything costs so much to repair that the cash flow is a kind of a myth in the first few years. So I would rather own less assets, but better asset classes. So we talk about A properties, which are like newer builds, good markets, right? You're not going to like, they're not going to be great cash flowing, but they're going to be good because there's going to be no repairs needed, not as many. It's going to appreciate better. I would rather buy that than own, 30 rental properties in the Midwest. Because at the end of the day, there's not a much enough not enough cash flow. So that's kind of how I evolved, I guess. What I would say, Grant, is that, like, I realize that the most cash flow is going to come from an operating business versus just real estate. So that's why I came with a new thesis several years back, which is like this triangle method. It's like, if you want to, a lot of people, I talk to people and I help them buy businesses and I help them find businesses. I help them finance businesses and real estate too. I've been in real estate finance for a long time. And I talk to people every day. And so I talked to a couple the other day. They live in California. They make, $550,000 combined on their W-2, right? It's pretty good money. They don't have much left over each month to save or invest. So there's a real problem. When you're a W-2 employee, you're taxed at the worst, probably, tax rate possible because you have no write-offs. So the new thesis is you have to look at this whole financial blueprint. And that is the most important thing, I think. It's not how many doors you own. A lot of people own 1% of a thousand doors, and they say, "Oh, I own 1,000 doors," because they invest in these syndications. Or is somebody better off owning 5 rental properties that they own 100%, and they're making a lot more cash flow and a lot more appreciation, right? So first you have to unpack all that. But I would say you have to figure out what your overhead is each month. What does it cost you to live, food, fun, insurance, all these things that you're probably not paying right now that you will in the next few years. So let's just say it costs me 10 grand a month to live for all my expenses. Well, I want to bring in $10,000. The goal to build up where you can build $10,000 a month of recurring passive income, as passive as possible, managing property, right? Like, once you can build that cash flow up, we consider that being 100%er. Because now essentially you could leave your day job and you have $10,000 a month, which covers your lifestyle. Obviously, you want to build that so you're a 200%er where you have $20,000 a month coming in, and your costs are only 10,000. Then you're reinvesting that $10,000 a month every. So you got to look at things, I think, from that perspective, and then also going back to this couple that makes 550 grand a year. Their best bet right now from a tax strategy, because they're not real estate professionals, they own like 2 properties, I think. So the tax code wasn't written for W-2 people. It's written for small business owners. So you get really good. When I was talking about vending machines, I can go buy vending machines to offset some of my earned income because there's something called Section 179 and bonus depreciation. See, I think you need to understand the triangle. When you understand the triangle, you start thinking about things differently. Like, every year I go, well, what do I need to invest in that can offset some of any of my taxable income? Because I'd rather invest in something that's going to create cash flow for me. So that's why I'm a fan of, like, this whole approach. I don't think there's a one size fits all, like, as far as anything goes, but I think if you take these financial steps, like the house hack, it doesn't take much thought. Don't have to be some sophisticated investor. You're buying a place to live in, and you're figuring out, well, I can rent the other 3 bedrooms in the house out to some college buddies, and I can the unit next door I can convert to a short term. If it's a duplex, it could be a short term rental, midterm. I can get X amount of gross revenue. Here's my here's my mortgage payment. Here's my taxes and insurance. Me living there, I make 2 grand a month cash flow, and I'm living for free. Now that 2 grand a month is $24,000 a year. That's going to go to fund your next investment, which you can do the same thing. You can do a live-in house hack, and then you leverage FHA financing, which is first-time home buyers, 97.5% financing. So like you don't have to have this huge elaborate plan, but I think you need a plan. Like what do you want to do when you grow up, or what are you doing right now?
Yeah, I was thinking of studying econ in college. Still not too sure what I want to do yet, but
Okay, well, but would you be willing to start a business uh, when you're attending university? I think you should go to college, but I also think you should have a business. You should work on starting a business. And so when you when you finish your, bachelor's degree and decide if you want to go get your master's or PhD or whatever you're going to do, you already have a business that's cash flowing, right? Like, because some people, they're like, they're kind of undecided on what they want to do. They go to university, they don't really have a clear plan, and then they like get into all the student debt, and they come out and they're like, mid 20s, and then now they have to start over with all this monthly debt they have to pay. Where if you decided, hey, I'm going to start a business while going to college, because there's no better education, I believe, than starting a business, because you're going to learn how, like, what a P&L, what a profit and loss is. You're going to learn about cash flow. You're going to learn how to finance. You're going to learn all these things that are just as important as a lot of things. Now, granted, I just had a baby and I was at the hospital and the doctors are there. Look, it's amazing, the medicine, and you need high education for that. But also, if we talk about the couple that I'm telling you that is making $550,000 a year, they're doctors. They know nothing about financial literacy. They know how to make money and help people when they're sick, but they are, they're not living their best life because they don't know the triangle or these strategies. So I would suggest figuring out what business you're going to start when you go to college and run them both, because I think, this is just me personally, but I think if you do that, you'll get the best education. You're going to get the academic education. My brother's got a degree from Davis. He's an econ major. But you're also going to get actual practical real world, which is going to make you just so much better. Whether you decide to go to the corporate world or start your own business after university, you're going to be ready, like more ready than most people are going to be. And that's what I would suggest to you. I wouldn't say don't go to college. I would say, what I would say is go to college, but also have a business at the same time, because those two things will teach you so much. And then when you graduate, it might not be that you're going to want to be a CPA or whatever. I don't know what's your initial thoughts on what you want to do?
I'm still kind of undecided, not too sure yet, but
I think you're going to get into, I see you in a career in private equity or investment banking. So those are great skills. That's a great reason to go to university. But that business that you own, right? Because then, like, you already have a business, right? And then you graduate, and then you go get a high paid job, and now you already have a business. You now have better tax write offs to offset the W-2 income. You have your first house hack. You're now on to your second house hack because you have lived in there during college. So yeah, that's what I would kind of say. I think just doing those baby steps is all you need to do initially, and then decide. Because if you just have 4 or 5 houses, that's a life changing. You don't need 150 doors like Michael has, right? I mean, that's great to achieve, but owning 5, 6, 7 doors over a long period of time is going to you'll be a millionaire from just that, right? Because time, mortgage pay down and appreciation of the assets, will create that wealth for you. So it doesn't have to be a complex plan, but I would say you have to take action. And like, the other question I would have for you is like, have you had a job yet in your life? Because you're still pretty young. Okay, good. So a lot of what I see is a lot of kids don't um, get jobs, right? Because I think working is good. You got to like build calluses. Um, and so, yeah, just consider starting a business in house hacking, collectively going to university and kind of honing in on like what you want to do. And I think doing what you're doing right now, asking questions, will help you formulate a plan on like what you should do, like what you want to do. I would I would tell you it's not just about the money. It's also about like the big thing is to be passionate about what you're doing. So find something that you're extremely passionate about that you make a living doing, and then you'll probably become more successful that way. So if you do that, then I think that would be lead you in the right direction. I know at 16 it's difficult to really figure out because you haven't experienced a lot. But I think the freedom of making your own money with your business, you'll be able to travel a little bit more. You won't have to rely on your family for money because you make your own, and then it sets you up for success. The time you're in your 30s, you could already have enough cash flow where you don't really need to work anymore. And so that would be an amazing thing. You could spend your time doing what you really love to do, traveling or whatever that those hobbies and passions are. So it I think my overall goal is to create something where people would learn all about this other alternative space of real estate investing, business ownership, the tax advantages, setting up entities, how to structure creative deals if you don't have a lot of cash, right? Like your first investment property. How are you going to buy it if you don't have money? Can you buy it? What is seller financing? What is creative financing? Subject to investing, lease options. Like that is like I'm not an artist, but I think like when it comes to because I've done so many deal structuring, that is my canvas. Like putting together deals is art to me. So learning all about this is really interesting. And then you learn how to leverage too. Leverage is very important. So how do you leveraging your time, right? Like I have virtual assistants that are in the Philippines right now. That's leveraging my time. So I don't do video editing. I have somebody edit my videos. I don't put together the spreadsheets. They do. So how do you leverage too? And then putting it all together now is as AI comes about, which your generation um, AI is changing the world right now. How you use AI. Like I use AI in my business between like my podcast, between I mean it's amazing what you can do. I can attach a spreadsheet to ChatGPT and it can analyze it for me. You got to prompt it. So that's another fascinating area where I think if I was younger and studying something, I would study like the business component of utilizing AI and strategy and how to use the prompts. Because I think with the power of technology now, there'll be more one person companies that can create millions and millions of dollars because of leverage. In the past, we didn't have that. Like I can go and write books. I can do all this stuff with the help, email. So I think if you can put all these pieces together, it's a really exciting time for you, for me. And I wish you the best. And what any other questions you have?
Yeah, just say I did want to um, start the vending machine business. What do you think are resources that I could use to learn, like you have, like the ways to start and actually run that business?
So I would first start on like a YouTube university, and I would find this is what I do with everything. I start researching different people's perspectives on how they run their vending businesses, how they're getting locations, you know, what locations give you the best premiums, what machines are the best. And then you start creating a thesis of like, okay, there are done for you models in vending, but you can also bootstrap it. I would probably say since you're young and hungry, you bootstrap it. You'd save a lot of money that way. And then so you research the best vending machines. Maybe you learn how to refurbish them yourself, and you put the new card readers on where you can track everything on your phone. Then you figure out how to get into the best locations because it's all about locations. So if you get in the best locations, you put them in schools, things like that, where it's all foot traffic. And then what's a beautiful thing about the vending is that if you get the right locations, it's going to pay you just as much as that rental property. The only difference is instead of spending 300 grand on a rental property, I'm just talking cash flow at the end of the month. It's going to only cost you 5 or 7 grand for a newer machine, a new machine or a resale, right? 7 grand, 8 grand. And you can finance those machines too. So instead of me spending 300 grand and getting $1,000, this is all hypothetical. I spent 8 grand and I financed it through a vendor, and I get the same $1,000 of cash flow. And so, like, to me, that's not a bad way to go. You can also write off because you own a small business. Let's say well, you could do it too. You could offset, like, if you paid 10 grand on your W-2 and you kept your W-2 job right now in taxes, let's just say you made 100 grand and you paid 15, 18 grand in taxes. You can offset a big portion of that because now you also own a small business. So then you get with your CPA and you go, hey, I bought these 3 vending machines. I spent $30,000. This is just hypothetical. What does that do? How would that save me? How much of the tax that I paid in might I get back? And then you just can keep every year, you can keep on buying. Now you have 15 or 20 machines. You have enough cash flow that you can, like, realistically just live off of. I mean, it's not going to be, you're not rich, but you have enough cash flow that, like, if you have a normal lifestyle, so it doesn't take much to scale it up. And then you could find private lenders too and say, hey, look, I'm buying these vending machines. I'll pay you 8% interest. You become the bank for me. Maybe somebody's got a self-directed IRA. If they have a self-directed, they could be your bank, and then they're right. Like, so you got to be creative on how you're finding the money because you might not have a bunch of money sitting around and you might not have credit to go get equipment finance to buy the vending machine, but you can get private lenders. See what I'm saying? Because there's something called self-directed retirement accounts, and they can, instead of putting money in stocks and bonds, they can invest in mortgages and in personal and business loans for other people. So you can just go get money, tap into that. There's trillions of dollars of money there. So you can get it 100% financed through that and just create a business plan, write it out on, I'll give you an example, write it out on ChatGPT. Now you have a business plan of, like, where you're going to go. You've researched the best schools to go into or the best places, hospitals, wherever. You've done some projections because we know if I sell this bag of Doritos for $3, what's the cost of the bag of Doritos, right? And there's a little bit of overhead. You're probably going to insure the machines. Some of the machines, like at a school district, you might give a portion of revenue, like 10% of revenue goes to the school as a donation for their school, their sports team or whatever. But now you have a viable business and you get 15 or 30 of these machines. That's enough cash flow for you. Now you're taking that cash flow. That's going to be your first down payment for your first house hack. See how these all work together? Tax strategy, real estate, business ownership. It works together. That's what's going to get you wealthy over a long period of time. Of course, there's also people the other thing that I think is very interesting that's not in the real estate space is memberships. Anything is like a membership, like these SaaS products. Like if you create software that has recurring revenue, membership. So all these type of realms, I think, can guide you into the light where you should go. But find something that, intrigues you and you're passionate about. And early on, we do have to make sacrifices. Like, you might get a W-2 job that you're not in love with, but it's going to pay you 6-figure salary. It's going to be the start of your being able to stack cash away for the house hack. But I would consider, as you're going to university, to start a vending business or a home service business where you clean dryers, the vents, the lint out of dryers, right? Like, there's simple businesses. Each service call is a couple $100. You could do X amount of service calls. All these things. So figure out, it might not be vending. It could be It could be one of those type of businesses. But then now you have a steady stream of money coming in. You might not need your job if you had a job right now because you're maybe making 15 bucks an hour doing something that you hate, like working at, In-N-Out Burger. Uh, I'm just saying, maybe you have a good job now, but then you could have this business that you're achieving more through now, and it's giving you a great education, which is going to get you further along faster. Whoa, that was a
I
long. I feel like I'm talking to my son. My son's only he's 4 months old though, so you're like my older son.
well, thank you so much for taking the time to answer my questions.
All right, thank
Yeah.
you. It's
Okay.
fun.
I'm gonna hand this back.